Hey, welcome back. Up above, as usual, got a bunch of links. All the way to the right is the space that Chris hosts on Film 3. Tomorrow we have the Frames on Chains folks, the Frames on Chain folks, coming to hang out with us and talk a little bit. They'll be talking about coverage for ThetaCon. I would imagine their OTT Roku channel, Kick It, will be on the discussion block as well. Come and hang out with us if you have the time. I just want to hear the conversation, learn something new. Obviously, the last session of this space, which was the first session of 2025, is now available on podcast. That's up in the nest. I launched a new series on writing, available via my Substack channel. If you're not subscribed, have a look at that. You can get it dropped right into your inbox once a month. I can't talk today. Good Lord. Also, we are wrapping up the final week of phase 1 of the Project Astral NFT series. So anybody that gets into phase 1 is going to get a special edition airdrop to them in phase 2. Looking forward to that. Have to clean up some graphics, but we're in good shape time-wise. Also, phase 1 holders get to watch a rough cut of the film, probably the first week of February, somewhere in there. And finally, as I have talked about, I am trying to release an audiobook once a month this year. The first one is redressing of the Yellowstone chapters from Volume 1 and Volume 2 of Exploring Our National Parks, the compilation releases, the anthology releases, perhaps we might call them. Those are available as an ebook and an audiobook, obviously, which is what I've tasked myself with. So that's all up above. You can check it out if you're interested as well. So, you know, as we typically do here, it's pretty free form. We just hang out. What have you been working on? What do you have going? Tell us about it, Ricky.
Yeah, well, I got a lot of irons in the fire, like always. Been working on Wargate 2 mostly. I think I'm like 36, almost 36K back into that. Outlining this other political philosophy book that maybe I'm going to write soon. Working on the outline for the writing about writing and designing podcasts and stuff, new content for this year. And waiting to deal with the cover artist for Royal Road. Hopefully that'll be in a week or so. Yeah, good stuff. So far, it's been a good year.
Let me hear about the podcast typically. Is it exclusive content on there, or are you doing kind of what I do, which is reuse these discussion sessions as podcasts?
Yeah, well, I do what you do because I like recording off of X. I like the format of it. I like the community that I mean, you know, don't get me wrong. I had a few episodes where I had some hecklers, but you're gonna get that anywhere.
That's fine.
Yeah. More or less just retreading. I got a lot of good data off of last year's program concerning the novel design. Like, I got plenty of stuff to mill through and add to the book, as well as the book's overall formatting. And I want to design a poetry open mic for people to come and read their poesy, their lyrics, you know. So we're supposed to have an interview show. We can't this week because I think one of Tom's relatives is in the hospital.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I think his daughter, but I'm not sure. You know, God willing, she's all right and whatever. But he had to bow out for tomorrow. Otherwise, we were going to have an author in and interview him. But that's pushed off to next week because he's still interested in doing it. So it's good stuff, you know. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, very cool. I feel like we kind of have a similar approach in terms of how to use audio and discussion and interview. I am now at the point where, like, these spaces are basically giving me 2 to 3 audio sessions a month for podcasting. So I'm kind of restricting myself to like one interview over there a month, which is right now not enough because I've, for whatever reason, starting at the beginning of the year, I have just been getting a ton of interviews with people. So I'm kind of backlogged on that. I've thought about potentially releasing more than one episode a week, but I probably am not going to do that just so I can kind of stage things out and keep myself kind of ahead. Some of them are timely, some of them are not. So it's all right if they come out later. It's not going to be a major issue in regard to the projects or releases that those folks are working on. So yeah, I feel for you. Hopefully Tom's family is all right. And next week we get to hear that interview.
Yeah. This guy, Ian's writing this superhero fiction or whatever. And he reads it and I'm not really even into superhero fiction. Like to me, it's kind of like I'm over it already. Like it's played out, but the writing, this guy writes like extremely effectively for this genre. Like I'm listening to it and it's like, to me, it's almost like irresistible. So it's like, I want to ask him like, wow, like how are you? Because there's fatigue. You got to admit there's like superhero fatigue.
Fair.
So like, how did he overcome that? Because it's like, I'm listening to his story week after week. I forget how many words it was, if it was like 40K or something. And it was just like, wow, this feels so fresh. So I got to know. And he readily agreed. And Tom was stoked. So we're going to see. Hopefully not tomorrow, but the following Thursday, hopefully.
Yeah, very good. Also, the book on writing. Any release date yet? Can we expect that next month, or how's that coming along?
You're great, man. Yeah, I got to. What I got to do is I got to get Wargate to 40K, and then I'm going to back off of it again. And then I'm going to be juggling that political science book, and I'm going to be really taking a machete to the outline of this thing. I'm going to back it up, save the draft that it is, and then I'm going to like go in trimming. And I got to tell you, once I do that and I integrate a few more elements from the whirlwind of documents that I've been writing concerning this, I'll have a much better idea for you then, Michael. And I really do appreciate you asking, because it inspires me to keep going. I'm a fantasy chapter kind of guy. This is like I said, this feels like, is there quicksand? Is there landmines? Like, I feel a little anxious. So, but you doing that keeps motivating me and inspiring me. So that's good. I'm hoping in a month I'll be able to tell you something for real. Maybe even in a couple weeks. Not my goosey responses that I'm giving you now.
It's all good. It's a very nuts and bolts technical work, and it takes time to do that. I mean, like the marketing and branding books that I released, as short as they are, they actually kind of sat in gestation for a few years because I had started them in one way and then completely scrapped all that and started over. And they became something completely different than what I had initially thought. And personally, probably better than what they might have been at the outset. So, I applaud you for doing it either way. It'll see the light of day when it does. And I think that the novel design sessions that you do are good. And, for me, I don't have the capacity to write a novel right now, but it is good to listen in and hear how you guys approach it in a technical sense. For me, in the near term, I'm trying to wrap up a couple of things for next month. Obviously, I've got another audiobook that'll be coming out, and I'm working on getting the text for that finalized. This week, I will probably do a little bit of additional reading that I need to clean up on there for the audiobook version, and then I'm going to do the layout next week and try and get it all submitted and ready for pre-order and release on Audible by February 1st. I don't see that being a problem. I'm just kind of looking at like what I have. So that'll be coming out probably mid-month. I'll probably try and do it for that second week of the month again. And then we'll see. Let's see. I've got a video coming out. Heidi has seen a rough cut of that. It's actually the fourth rough cut that I've done of that. So that's kind of my process with those, is I just kind of build them up, start cobbling things together, begin refining a little bit more, and chip away little by little in a very non-linear fashion. I know like what she saw is mostly the first act and the second act, mostly there. The third act only just kind of in a very the roughest state of all the material. But I would say it's kind of like around second base at this point, and we'll be getting that into shape, because I really want to put that out the first week of February, second week of February at the latest. But I don't want to have overlap between that audiobook and that video, just because, that's a lot to get out there and promote and kind of give its deserved time, where people are, I don't want to be tugging people in too many different directions and like within the same week. So I've been trying to slam on that this week, and then next week I'll be doing kind of the lip sync material for that. I have to do generative voice. I've been working on the audio already in terms of the music, so I'm writing music for that. I might find some royalty free stuff to use, and then all the Foley work, the sound effects and things are kind of getting in place. But yeah, Heidi, you've been hanging out. What are you doing? What are you working on? How are things coming along? I have been reading her novelette. I'm not too deep into it yet. She's luckily giving me the grace to pace myself through it, because it's sizable, but also I want to make sure that I'm doing it justice as a beta reader. What else you got going on?
Oh, hey. Well,
Hey.
I've been a little distracted. I have this problem where I'm like either completely focused or completely distracted.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not real good at being in the middle of these things. So I've been a little distracted lately, and I'm waking up today trying to get myself focused, to be honest. So yeah, so I thought I'd come in here and let y'all ball me out some. Might help.
Perfect. So what I'm hearing is you just woke up.
No, I've been up, but um there's been a lot going on this week, and
Has there?
yeah, just a bit. So
What's
I
been
got
going
to
on?
what?
What's
Oh, with
been,
me
yeah,
or no?
with you?
No, I have projects I need to do that I haven't been doing that aren't related to writing. So they're like just
Mm-hmm.
stuff. So I'm not doing those, and I'm screwing up this week. I'll be honest. Let me just throw it out there. I'll just say it.
Oof.
So where am I? I'm at noon on Wednesday, and
Welcome to it.
yeah, no, my son called this morning, so I was starting to get focused, and then he wanted to talk to me all morning, and it's like I'm not going to hang up on him. He's 2,000 miles away from me. I'm going to talk to him,
Sure.
especially if he calls and just wants to, you know, shoot the breeze, as they say, right? So no, I just need to be balled out. I have the novella. I'm letting you and a couple other people look at it. Everybody kind of needs until February,
Oh, good.
and I think that's fine. I mean, it's give me some decent feedback. I appreciate that.
How am I doing?
You're doing fine, and I need to look at your short story. I've got to pull that up. So this is part of my screwing up, and I've got another piece. Someone else sent me something to go through, and I appreciate your feedback. It's very useful. Just I don't know if you guys have, if Ricky or Julie, if you guys have ever had Michael do any sort of beta reading stuff for you. He's very thorough. So I appreciate that over speed. So I would highly suggest, you know, you know, you know, beg, borrow, and steal.
Well, that's the thing. Okay, yeah. So Ricky, yeah, we should line up, Ricky, you and I, and try and get Dropbox sorted out, because I really want you to read that piece, and I really want you to do it in there so that all the comments are in there for me, because that's the most advantageous way for me. Maybe we can get you signed up on a different email or use a different browser or something. We can troubleshoot whatever the problem is or something like that.
Yeah. So
go ahead, Heidi.
no, no, stop and talk about that. No, so yeah, I'll just say, so I have the larger novel, the 122nd, the second full book of the song list series. It's in first draft, and I need to go through and do my edit on that. And I also, I'm waiting till the end of the month to see how things pan out with the audiobook for The Desert. So I'm kind of letting that one go, but what I need to do is really get focused on the larger novel on my first pass edit through.
It's only a week till the end of January, Heidi.
I know, and then a week
All right.
we'll deal with the audiobook scenario and what's happening with that. But I have a week since, so what can I say? I know I'm like, I don't know. I fell over in January. What can I say?
Jeez.
I just fell over. I'll own it.
You weren't doing that good in December.
No,
I'm just teasing you. You're busy.
I finished a novella in December. I did, get something done. I made some changes.
No, I think you did the whole novella in December, right? You wrapped up the volume 2 too, as well.
I have wrapped that up before that.
Okay.
I believe. But yeah, the novella, it's like 19,000 words. So, and I got it, obviously there's Christmas, there's holidays. So I gave myself I'm not going to pick on myself over December. There's a lot happening in December.
That's fair.
I will pick on myself over, and I really only kind of fallen, I would say the past week or so has just been not great. So I'm beating myself up. Thought I'd come in here and beat myself up a little more, but I'm going to get back on track now. It's my job. So, yeah. Sorry to end it. I'll sort of leave it at that. Ricky, I'll let you go. Sorry.
Well, yeah. Basically, when it comes to Dropbox, I'm not trying to be a nudge, and maybe I'd give it another try. So here's the deal with Dropbox. I might have told this story already, but gather around the magic carpet. I grabbed Dropbox back in 2011.
Yeah.
When it was like new,
fresh.
Fresh. I had my first iPad, and I had it on there, and everything was great. I was composing on Pages. I was doing 2011. I was writing Cyberdonia, my first novel. I moved from epic poem to my first novel. So fast forward a couple years. I want to say it's like 2013, 2014. I go to look for my Dropbox, figuring up, tried and true, it'll be there. I look, gone. You ever see that episode of South Park where the money's gone?
Yeah.
Remember the bank? It's gone. They just go like that. So I look, and my data's, it's just gone. It's not hooked up to any other computer. I didn't do that. It's just gone. So I was a little upset.
Fair.
Because if I didn't keep such paranoid, rigorous backups like I did, I might have been in a wind-sucking position there, where I was like, oh, my novels that took me years, they're gone. Now, I had thummies, and I had it on the redundant things, and I put it on multiple hard drives, so everything was kosher. But don't get me wrong. Pepperidge Farm remembers things like that. So I'm not like super happy to go Mega Man sliding back into Dropbox. It's not that I made any blood oaths to never do it again, but I don't care for it. Last time I checked, it's really expensive. If you want to have like a certain plan, that's my theory. And I don't want to make this about a drumhead trial for Dropbox, but I'm not doing backflips over it. And furthermore, when I do these things, I listen. Reason I ask for PDF is because I listen and I take notes, and then I send the notes. I do AutoCAD. I do my own writing. I do my editing. My eyes get tired. So when I do these type of things, I listen on a PDF. It turns it into like a GPS where it's like, this is Michael's work. But you get to hear it, and then I take notes in a 3-act structure, which is easy because you said it was like 6K, so I just break it up into 2K sections, and I would send you notes like that. But anyway,
let me give you a little bit of insight into that piece. It's 6K, but it's actually broken up into approximately 1,500 word sections. So there's 4. It's not a 3-act structure. I would say there's maybe 3 acts with a flashback scene.
Okay, that's fine. Could be 4 acts.
Yeah. That said, you can still have it read to you off there. And the best thing about, with paper, being able to have everybody in there is that people can comment off of other comments. And that's super beneficial to me because then people kind of give insight on the insight. And that really moves the dialogue along.
Yeah, all right. Well, we'll talk about it at some point. Figure it out when the show's not going on.
Yeah, no sweat.
We'll see what's going on. I'm not trying to be difficult. I think
it's all good.
I think I've made my case, and I am very interested in hearing it. So we'll figure it out.
Yeah, no problem. Julianne, you're up here. You're hanging out. What have you been working on?
Yeah, I've been working on that music video for a crypto song I made. It's supposed to be a funny country crypto song about taking risks.
And you're doing video editing, right?
Yeah. So I'm hoping this weekend I could post it.
What did you use to write the lyrics? I'm kind of curious. Did you write them or did you use?
I used ChatGPT.
Okay. And how much did ChatGPT create and how much did you create? Was it a back and forth or did you just take what it gave you?
I think I pretty much took what it gave me. I don't quite remember editing anything.
Damn. Just leaning on the computer.
Yeah, I liked what it did, so I just kept it.
That's okay, because I think the exercise is kind of more about the video for you and doing video editing.
Yeah, the video, because I thought I'd also be able to do 3 for 3 and just like put in the song somewhere and then the whole video would be generated.
No.
But it sounds like there's nothing that really does that. So
No.
I ended up putting it together myself. So it's good sharpening that skill.
Yeah, good exercise. Heidi's messing around with generative AI video as well, passively, I would say right now, but it's still exploring it. She's been using, I think the cover for the novella, right, is going to be, that's generated. So that's going to be the cover. That's what you're using. You're not doing anything with your photography or anything.
Well, I mean, that image doesn't look like the AI image. I took it into Photoshop and Illustrator.
Sure.
I mean, you can tell it came from there, but it's different.
Right.
I think it's different enough. So, yeah, I'm doing that. I signed up. I don't know if I'll get it because I have Adobe Creative Suite.
Okay.
So Firefly is doing a video AI beta.
Yeah.
So I signed up to get in their beta. So I'll see if that happens.
Nice.
So I'm kind of hoping to get into that. But Firefly AI, I was messing with that because I didn't even know I had it because, I stay on top of these things. So
here's the thing about Firefly, and don't quote me on this, but it's just my understanding of things, is they give you access to the tools on Firefly, but you need to have some other generative service that you tap into through Firefly to do the actual video generation. Am I wrong about that? What have you read?
I couldn't find actual video generation for Firefly. It's totally in beta. So I mean, you can do images, right? Just like say.
Okay, is that just the image thing then?
It's just the image
Gotcha.
thing, and it's part of Creative Suite, so, and which I use because for layout and covers and such.
For sure.
And so I'm like, oh well, I have this. I should mess with it because Grok went into the. I don't know what they took some module out of it. Someone told me they took some module out of it that took all of the artistic imaginative abilities of it away is what I would say. And so it's very, very boring now to play with Grok. And I mean, you guys probably far more into AI generation than I am, but that's
You know,
my just opinion.
I use 2 different models today and 2 different pieces of software today. So, to a degree, that's just stills. And then also in the last 2 days, I've used 2 different video generation modules. Here's the thing that I did hear about in regards to Adobe and Premiere is that they were creating the tooling to be able to plug in via API to other third-party services like Runway, potentially Luma, Pika, and who knows whatever else. That was last year though, so I don't know if they've launched that or not.
Okay. I am not spent the time to figure out how to use Premiere properly.
Gotcha.
So I'm probably the worst person to ask that question. So when you go into Premiere, every time I've tried to mess with it, they say, if you can put a short video or something in, they can generate off of that. I couldn't get it to work. That's probably user error.
That's probably because you don't have it plugged into the API is what I'm talking about.
Yeah. It's possible. I mean, like I said, I'm trying to limit myself a little bit. I'm trying to put some boundaries up so that I will stay with my projects.
Perhaps.
Because I will get too spread out.
Here's what you want to do is actually go into the Discord server that we have.
Yeah.
And in the creative discussion, the person to ask about that is Chris, because he's basically a Premiere devotee. He uses that, I think, exclusively at this point.
Yeah,
so
I probably should. Maybe he could give me some tips to get up and running with it, because I don't know why I can't seem to get it to work. I mean, I don't. I've used Adobe products forever, so I don't know why I'm having so much trouble with Premiere. I mean, maybe it seems like it should function in similar. I assume it functions similarly to their other stuff. I don't know why it's such a challenge for me, but there it is, right?
Well, you'll sort it out. I mean, what's up, Gonzalo? Yeah, see you. You're in listening mode today. That's all right. We always like to have you hanging around either way. You can drop comments and then you're kind of participating to a degree. I feel like that's basically all of us with the tools, right? We try to learn as best as we can and advance with them. But for me, and I only want to speak for me on this, it's really about like getting the material out. And like, I'm not trying to be a master at using all of this production software. I want to be good at it. I want to be good at it enough to make things that I'm happy with when I release them. And if I need to come back around and clean things up or release another version or edition of something as I learn more and can make something better, then I'll do that. I want to keep making new things. And like, my point isn't to learn to make new things, it's to make new things. And there is that slight distinction, but that's where I'm at with that particularly. Jillian, what were you using for editing? I think you were using Premiere as well, right?
Yes.
You have any great insights on Premiere? I actually jump around between 3 different video editing programs. I use iMovie, I use CapCut, and I use DaVinci. And between the 3 of them, I'm able to achieve, enough of what I want with those 3 tools.
I guess when I was first looking at it, because I have worked with some video editing software before, but I kind of expected it'll just be very easy and I just know what to do and be that obvious. But then I was like, when these things are connected to each other, how do I separate them? How do I do this? And then I had all these things I had to figure out. And then at one point I asked ChatGPT to help me out, and it was good customer service from them. So I don't know. Sometimes when you just use new tools, you figure things out yourself. It's like maybe it spoils you to think that I'll just do this new thing and it will be a piece of cake. But I guess just had to figure some things out first.
Speaking of writing and talking to LLMs to do writing, I have been working on a redesign of my website. And it's not live if you go there currently, but I have been using Llama to work on design and the HTML and CSS. I do not want to do any cookies or data collection or anything like that. Just very, very clean and simple, to where, it's responsive, it does all the things, and looks a little bit nicer than my current version, which I designed specifically to look like 1990s internet. I liked that look. But I find myself leaning on the LLMs now for these technical things because they are knowledgeable about that. They're not always great about facts. They will muddy the facts a little bit. But in terms of technical stuff, like working on equations for Apple numbers, working on HTML and CSS for web design, it has been very helpful to basically, make pretty good strides. And it's not like I'm not knowledgeable about web design or anything. I've done that for a long time. But in terms of getting something rapidly that it spits out, I can drop all the details in, I clean up some stuff, make some changes, and then, maybe problem solve here and there. Very good. I know that this is maybe abstract in terms of writing, but, we are attempting to market ourselves as well. And I think having a good website or even a functional website kind of does some of that ideally.
I use WordPress, so that gives me a nice backend that's no code. I guess you could do some code stuff if you wanted to, but I just find I like using that.
Sure. Now, here's the problem with WordPress and other content management systems is they're heavy lifting. They do, they require a lot.
So can I ask a question? So you're saying WordPress requires heavy lifting. You're talking about when you're doing it all on your own? Not like WordPress.com is what I mean, where they sort of have a set thing and then there's actual WordPress where you're like having to go through all this stuff to do that. Is that to get the site up? Is that what you're saying?
So what I mean particularly is that when you're using a content management system, you are going to be using like more than just HTML and CSS. You'll be getting into JavaScript, you'll be getting into PHP, you'll be getting into like a bunch of other platforms and database management and data collection and things like that. So that's a lot more than what I want to make people interface with for my own personal website. Now, I think you were also talking about like WordPress, the website, and what I'm talking about is WordPress, the platform, the content management system that you deploy. Does that help?
Yeah, that's what I meant. I meant that not a platform like Wix or something. There's a WordPress.com, which I think is like Wix, where they kind of do everything for you kind of thing.
Well, okay, so let's say Wix doesn't necessarily do everything for you. What you end up getting is Wix is a content management system that is proprietary. WordPress is a content management system that is open source. So you can kind of dig in under the hood and make alterations. Now, WordPress, the website, is effectively just a blogging website platform for distributing your work. Not totally the same thing. If you're using WordPress, the platform, you're going to need hosting, unless you're using their hosting. I think they offer that. I have my own hosting, so I do these installs there as opposed to relying on like a third party hosting. Well, I guess they're both technically third party hosting, but it's a little bit different. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Cool. Yeah. And, WordPress is good. It's similar to Joomla, Drupal, a bunch of other ones, all over the place. I try to keep my website as lean as possible. That way it's basically just the lightest kind of deployment and download for people that are viewing it. The heaviest stuff I have on there is usually like YouTube embeds.
Yeah, well, sounds like I guess that style works for you, and I guess different styles work for different people.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, yeah. Whatever works for you is the thing that I would say to use. And you know, if you can deploy something really light and you understand how to do that, do it. If not, it, believe me, I've done a bunch of like client work using content management systems that enable a vast array of functionality for people that don't necessarily want to do code, but they need something that is able to integrate social media, blogging, database management, whatever it might be, really.
Oh, so because I guess you do work with when it comes to like audio visual presentations, but you also do websites too. Is that like to go with those people or just for anyone?
Sorry, one more time.
So it sounds like you do work for people for like if they want a video or audio or anything like that. And it sounds like you also do websites for people too. Is that like is that for like the audio visual work or just like for anyone?
Yeah, I definitely have. So yeah, like I've worked on the content side for people. I've worked on the deployment side, so like front end, back end type of stuff for websites for people. And everybody's situations are different. If you're doing like a basic, just landing page kind of deployment, like you don't have to get too into the weeds with it. If you're doing something that's more e-commerce related or you're dealing with database management, then all of a sudden the complexity begins to ratchet up quite a bit.
Are you like a full-time freelancer or do you have like a job and then you do the freelancing on the side?
Yeah, both.
Cool. I guess it's like try to get the best of both worlds because you could have like the safe thing and then you have the other thing where you could be a little more adventurous with. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah, for sure. And that's kind of, what I would say is like a way to keep busy generally.
Yeah. And then I guess sometimes the hope is that eventually your side thing could be the main thing if that's what you want.
Yeah, that's fair. Any other thoughts, comments, questions? We're just hanging out.
Is this AI stuff capable of doing a book trailer?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, because I remember when I first started wading into this whole thing of writing novels and stuff, like book trailers were like the greatest thing since sliced bread. And obviously back in those dark ages, back in 2011, 2012 and all that, the AI wasn't really there yet.
For sure.
So I always wanted to know if I could like pay for a subscription and then generate book trailers, which are this wonderful thing. But it's like when I was pricing them back then, there was no way I couldn't afford it. And some of these people were like getting flaky. So I just wonder, like, what if I was to, in other words, if people do make book trailers using AI, which platform would you recommend?
Well, I mean, if you've looked at any of the trailers that I've been doing for my stuff, you're going to see like that I'm using AI for that. I prefer Runway, but there's lots of great stuff depending on how technical you want to be or how intricate you want to be through the process, like image generation, or if you want to do like text to video. It kind of depends. I would say like Runway is good. Pika has made a pretty good upgrade recently that has kind of brought them back to attention. Luma is good. LLMs will help you develop all that stuff as well.
Yeah, that's cool because it'd be nice to try to. I mean, there's so many irons in the fire. There's so much I'm doing, and there's so much money going back and forth. Mostly forth, if you know what I mean. So I don't know. We'll have to see, but I think you know what I mean, right?
Can you hear me? Somehow, for some reason, I dropped. I went into my kitchen with the troll. Ricky, I was looking into that because I was thinking the same thing about doing book trailers. And one thing I noticed with Luma, I don't know if this is true of all of them, but under the terms of service, if you don't maintain a subscription with them, you lose rights to use anything for commercial purposes instantly. So if you're not giving them money, then they take away your right to use the material you created on Luma. So it's not like you can use it for a while. And so I don't know if that's true of all of them, but you have to have a certain level of membership for them to do that. And that was a little off-putting to me. I thought, it's like, if I'm paying you money and I create this while I'm doing this, I should just be able to own it going forward. But they've set up their thing there. So I don't know what you guys think about that, but I thought I'd throw that out there because I would assume that would apply to a book trailer. I mean, being used for commercial purposes, right?
Yeah, which would be its entire point of me even doing it, is that I would be using it for commercial purposes. So then if I miss a payment, what are they going to desist me and tell me to take it down or whatever? It's
that's my question, right?
Yeah, well, that's a hell of a question. I mean, we need to sort that out before we go before we take another step. I'd love to hear some wisdom about that. Yeah, I mean, and all other commercial purposes, it's like I get my book covers done by an artist because that's how I roll. I want it that way. I'm very pleased with the covers. I'm not suggesting AI can't do cool stuff. I've seen it do cool stuff. And I really think its potential is only just emerging. Eventually there'll be no hallucinations, there'll be no artifacts and anomalies. It'll look like real stuff, like photorealistic. And then there'll be nothing, because it'll be faster. So probably cheaper than paying an artist. But I'm just interested in when it comes to something like a book trailer, or when it comes to something like they do all these adverts, like they make these cards and special images and all this stuff. And I would love it if there was just some place that you could like pay a subscription and get that stuff done for your works. I mean, when I say I would use AI to do it, I don't mean that I would use it, because I'm a dunce when it comes to these things. And furthermore, I really have no time to learn it. I would find someone who had a free schedule, and I would try to hire them to do it for me based on things that I wrote and worked on and whatever. But now it's like everything else. It's a question of the licensing. So we got to look into that.
That's why I was wondering. I don't know if you can talk, Michael, but I'm wondering, because I know you use Runway predominantly for that stuff. I'm wondering what the licensing on Runway is.
What do you mean by licensing? Do you mean like what you can do with it?
I mean, what you own. So
you own it all. So here's the interesting thing about AI created material is technically the raw output of any AI is not copyrightable. That's from the Supreme Court.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. Luma is saying they own the copyright on everything that you create on Luma unless you're paying them money every month. And the minute you stop paying them money, all ownership reverts back to them.
Yeah, that's nonsense.
I would agree. I mean, why would I get involved in that? So my question is that just some crazy thing Luma's doing? Is Runway doing that? Or, I mean, that was sort of my question.
Well, I'm not going to speak for Luma. I'm not going to speak on behalf of Luma, but what I'll say is like they get kind of dressed down about some of those policies.
Like basically like an invalid claim according to law.
Yeah, I mean, it's like they can say that they own those outputs, but like they don't really. It's just, that's not reality. That's just the nature of it. Like my interpretation of like the court decision is that like all that stuff is basically going into public domain effectively.
So you think even if it's like in the terms of service, think the terms of service is just like irrelevant or something like that?
Yeah, they haven't been taken to court on it. So they can say that, but like it's not really relevant until somebody tests it in court.
Yeah, it's not enforceable, is what you're saying.
I mean, they can enforce it. It's just like if you wanted to like have that debate in court over it, that like there's already precedent that's basically going to hose up that opinion of that they are presenting. I would say it's just not particularly like when you're doing like image to video prompting. Like, how are you going to tell me that you own the video output that was derived from my image output? That's like my photograph, you know? So like there's already like numerous cases kind of like about this stuff kind of coming along. So, you know, it is what it is. They can say that, but like that's going to become a real sticking point for them, you know, in general, like over time. And here's the thing, like I like Luma. I like their platform. I would say just use it and like don't worry about what they're saying, because like what they're saying is not realistic. Take advantage of it. Use it for your promotional material. Like they're not far enough along with everything to basically be concerned with like what you're doing with it after the fact. They have like way too much stuff going on at this point to necessarily be super concerned with like chasing you down about like you have this material out somewhere and you no longer have a subscription, and like like both of those two policies, like, oh, it reverts back to us when you're not paying for a subscription, is horseshit. And then like the other thing is it's like it's AI generated, so making the claim that it's theirs when that's like not what the courts have decided is also kind of nonsense.
Yeah, I almost feel like if like some attorney wanted to make a claim for themselves and take on some juicy cases like this, like, oh, you're being fraudulent with your terms of service or something, you know?
Yay, lawyers! Yay!
Yeah, so like that's the thing. Like I would not sweat about any of that stuff. I currently have a completely all generated work on Amazon Prime right now, in terms of like the video output, you know. So this is the thing, like they can't make a claim on that video output because that's what the courts have decided, that stuff is basically like public domain in the raw output. But what you can't do is take my video that I've created, that I've written the script for, done all the editing, written the music for. You can't then take that video and distribute that. That completed work is copyrightable, you know, to me. So, and that's kind of what they've said as well. There was a case with a graphic novel last year, where a woman had generated a lot of the images, so she couldn't copyright the individual images, but her book, the compiled work, the finished work that had her writing and her design work and the title and all the rest of that stuff, that was protectable, you know. And here's the thing, like if you're generating this stuff locally on your own machine, then nobody has the original files. What are they going to do? Like sit there and like scan in your printed book and then remove all the word bubbles and all the other editing that you do and reprint that? Like that's so much work. You know, they should probably want to save time and recreate their own material that way. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't sweat about all that stuff, to be honest with you. I think it's kind of irrelevant, and also like what they're stating is just not reality.
Well, these are good points to bring up because I mean, we got to think about this stuff because, you know, if you're using this stuff to do creative work, because it's super helpful, especially for those of us who are, you know, doing this kind of basically on our own, where these, you know, it's good to kind of understand what you have rights to. You know, I mean, I know I have rights to my story, but when you start throwing in images and AI stuff, it's like it can get confusing for those of us who are just want to focus on doing our art
Yeah.
and not all the legalese. It's a pain in the butt.
And if they're so concerned, then just either don't give a free trial or just give like very little for the free trial, and then the person then pays or something. Like, I don't know. It's
Right.
just a not. I don't know. It's not. I guess it could be annoying if it's not like obvious what to do and stuff.
Well, I mean, you have to be aware of the developments and kind of stay up on stuff. So, I mean, that's just the nature of everything. We're not lawyers, obviously. We kind of have to keep our finger on the pulse of what's developing. And this particular topic with generative AI is quite new and, not necessarily all set in stone today. I appreciate you guys joining us, us joining each other, perhaps you might say, and we'll talk again before too long.